Now, I don't want to act like I'm just, you know, crapping all over Black Ops 2 here. Especially over this last Double XP weekend, aside from the connections, I really have started to enjoy this game. And now, obviously, the connections are a big issue, but that's a whole other topic for another day. But one of the positives I want to talk about here, in my gun utility categories, I want to talk about how skillful some of these Slayer weapons are. Now, the AN-94, the FAL, and the M8A1 are the main three. The M27, you kind of can hold down the trigger, but I think the damage makes up for that a little bit, that's why I almost didn't put it in that. But since I was including the SCAR and the movers, I just decided to throw that in there too. In a way, it's not meant to be just the top 4 assault rifles, or however many, like the best. It's not supposed to be a ranking, but in another way, it kind of is. It's hard for me to explain. But anyway, back to the skillful Slayers, as I was talking about. You can't give them to a, you know, quote-unquote noob, just a new player, someone who doesn't know what they're doing. They won't be able to pick these up and just dominate with them. Now, early on, when the FAL Select Fire, before it got nerfed twice, I guess, it was close to that, but still that's a very selective group of, you know, attachments on that, and it doesn't really fit the bill the same way that it does now. For now, I think pretty clearly that single shot is the way to go with it. But these 3 guns, if you just use them the way that most people who are new at the game would use a gun, you're not reaching anywhere near their potential. The AN-94 is probably the best example of this, whereas most people would just hold down the trigger, let the recoil adjust itself a little bit, and that's all they would do. They wouldn't take the time to recognize that if you just shoot it in 2-round bursts by yourself, not using select fire, that's a waste of an attachment. If you can do that by yourself with your trigger finger, just go ba-dum, 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 2 shots at a time, not only are you shooting it so much faster, I can't remember the exact number, but I think it's at least like a 30 or 40% increase in the fire rate. But you're also reducing the recoil because you're only letting it shoot those 2, and then it's recentering. It's recentering itself. It just makes it so much better. It's shooting faster, and it's reducing the recoil. So you're more on target, and it leads to a lot of headshots as well if you do that. So that's just not something that a new player is going to think to do. Whereas with the FAMAS, they could just hold down the trigger, and I'm speaking, of course, in Black Ops 1 now. With that, they could just hold down the trigger, and they'd be good to go. They, you know, they'd barely even have to aim. And of course, there's guns that people feel like that in every game. But if someone kills you, it seems like they shot twice with the AN-94 and it killed you. Well, first off, there's probably some lag, but second, they're bursting it. They're not shooting it the way that most people shoot their assault rifles in Call of Duty. Now the FAL, that's another one where it's all about the trigger finger. You have to be, you know, really tapping that trigger fast. And I don't know, I'm pretty good at shooting it. I don't know how fast I can really shoot it. But I shoot it pretty well. I get a lot of kills with it, and I get kills probably a lot faster than other people would like to believe. But most people, when they use a single-shot weapon, they can't use it as aggressively as a good player can use the FAL. So that's the same way as with the AN-94. You can't be super aggressive and still get away with using this gun. If you're a normal player, or, you know, a below-average player, the FAL isn't a great gun. It's not one of the best guns if you're not really familiar with how to shoot a single-fire weapon in Call of Duty. And really, that moves it down probably to the range category. And now, also, burst-fire weapons in general are just not great for newer players. That's why even in Modern Warfare 2, both of the burst-fire weapons, the FAMAS and the M16, they're both very powerful burst weapons, but they weren't really overpowered because they took a little bit more skill. Burst-fire weapons, just the way that you can't hold the trigger down, you have to time your bursts, you have to be a little bit more, I guess accurate would be the word, and that sort of keeps it from being overpowered. And the same thing holds true with the M8. You can fire it really fast. I've had a lot of great games, especially on Nuketown. It works surprisingly well for Nuketown, but it's not an easy gun to use. Now, the M27, as I mentioned before, it kind of falls into that category of you hold the trigger down and you're good to go. But with the damage the way it is, you have to pick your gunfights a little bit more selectively. It's actually a great stealth weapon to use. Use a class with Ghost, use a silencer on it, and you'll be really good with that. And that's where it sort of finds its way into this category. Really, one of the best compliments you can ever get in a game is for someone to think that you're hacking. And the way that you can kill people with any of these 4 weapons, sometimes people might get a little antsy and they'll say, oh, this guy must be hacking, even though the chances of someone hacking on Black Ops 2 on a console right now are extremely low, so extremely low. But that's the way that some people feel sometimes when they see someone shooting a FAL and shooting it so fast, or they see you drop them with the M8 in one burst, which, by the way, I don't think I've ever gotten a one burst kill with it, but it's still such a good weapon, even if you can't get that one burst kill. And again, with the AN-94, I mentioned this before, but sometimes it seems like they killed you way too fast. And that's what I'm talking about. People will accuse you of hacking or whatever. Now that I've talked a lot, probably way too much, about how the Slayers are a little bit more skillful in this game, I want to talk a little bit about the SMGs. I think the SMGs, more than any other game really, they are different levels of rushers. I still would classify even the Peacekeeper. I would still say that it is a rusher. If you really want to post up behind a head glitch, you're still going to be so much better off with an assault rifle than with the Peacekeeper. Going just on the spectrum, from the Scorpion all the way up to the Peacekeeper, I think there's a lot more variety in the submachine guns than there really has been in any other game. I did like the way that the submachine guns were set up in Modern Warfare 3, just that's the easy comparison. I like the way they went with the PM9, which was a beast, and obviously all the way up to the MP7, that being the, sort of the go-to gun of that category. Everything in between, I really like the way that it worked itself out there, but I think that Black Ops 2 has even furthered that level of, I guess, SMG diversity. That's all I'm talking about, is how do the guns compare to each other, and what do they do differently that makes them unique so that it doesn't always feel like you are using the same gun. For anyone who actually stayed with me this whole time, I'd really like to thank you for watching this video. And if you enjoyed what you heard here, and you like the way that I thought all of this out and thought about these guns, please leave a like rating on this video. I'd really appreciate that. It helps me out a lot. And I'd also appreciate it if you'd subscribe. If you want to see more videos from me, that'll be a great way for you to do that. It'll be easier for you to find my videos if you do subscribe. You can also follow me on Twitter. And that's about all for this video, which I guess I'm going to split it into 2 videos now. Other than that, guys, thanks for watching, and have a nice day.